Redditors, what's the weirdest thing you've caught a roommate doing? Had a roommate that crap in her pants and hid her dirty drawers in her dresser. She also walked funny. I asked her why she walked that way and she told me, "I don't want to step on my tail." I was in the psych ward for an eval. I was deaf, not the craziest person in the room. Nothing like an old pair of crappy shorts to freshen up the rest of your clothing. So a couple years ago in college I got matched up with a random roommate. He was a cool guy at first, so things worked. After about the first week he just stopped speaking to me. Like I could see him after class and say what's up or how are you, and he would act like we were randos on the street who don't live together. So that turned into no words after a bit, but whatever, it didn't cause problems, so frick it. Now this is the weird event. It was around 3 AM and I hear talking and laughing coming from the living room, enough to wake me and keep me up. I get annoyed and walk out to tell them to keep it down. As I walk into the living room, I see him and his buddy sitting next to each other watching gay pee. Now I kind of just stop, still drowsy, trying to figure out WTF is going on, and just say, "Hey guys, I'm trying to sleep, keep it down." Yeah, they both just stare and nod, and I go back to my room confused and pass out. I come home after class the next day to see his girlfriend, who I have met before, just sitting on the couch relaxing. I say hi and walk to my room, trying not to make eye contact with him or her. We never mentioned that night nor spoke really at all the rest of the time we lived together. I still wonder if he was just super in the closet or something. Guess I'll never know. He sounds like he's so far in the closet he's having adventures in Narnia. One of my roommates used to flush food down the toilet. Once I saw her flushing a crap ton of spaghetti noodles, and another time, an apple core. I guess she thought that was what you did with unfinished food. Well, that's what you do with finished foods too. While at college, my then GF and I walked out of my room after having sex to see my roommate crouched on top of our table, just squatting there eating Cheez-Its, staring at us while smiling. Decided to room with him for another year after that. We had this Croatian guy who basically spent all of his time at our house, so he was considered a roommate. One time I came home at 7 AM. Mistake were made and I fled the scene, and I saw him standing in front of our George Foreman grill, dipping bread in the historical fat pit that hasn't been cleaned out in ages. Yes, he was eating the George fat. Delicious. Peeing in our cups from the kitchen. Dude would pee in them and put them back in the cupboard. Yeah, he washed them, but that didn't make a difference to me. Another guy would disappear to his bedroom before he hit the gym. We found out he was beating his willy because it boosted his testosterone before a workout. IDK science. The jerking off thing kind of makes sense, but peeing in cups is just an agent of chaos. My roommate, and best friend at the time, was secretly making vodka cocktails at night. Which alone is odd because we were both drinkers. But it got weirder because one day I opened up the cabinet that stored all the fancy Waterford drinkware from my failed first marriage, and half of it was gone. After looking through the other kitchen cabinets, I decided to break roommate code and look in her room, mainly because it just seemed really odd. I opened her door, her bedroom, the typical constant mess she's always lived in, and see 2 tumblers on her bedside table. Weirded out, I go to grab them and notice a sudden stench of dog poop. Against my better judgment, I look under her bed and see the rest of the glasses and random piles of dog poop amidst other debris. Pretty horrified, I grab all the glasses and got out of there. When she got home, I decided to tell her immediately what happened because of course she's going to notice the glasses are gone from her table. I asked her why she had the glasses in her room, and she told me about her nightly cocktails. Then I asked her if she was trying to hide her drinking, and she got very defensive. So I dropped it and asked she not use the glasses anymore since they're expensive and fragile. She agreed, and that was that. Nothing about the dog poop was discussed. About 2 months later she moved out and stopped talking to me. Her bedroom carpet and room were so gross the apartments charged us almost $1,000 for repairs, which she did pay. To this day I'll always wonder about why the fancy glasses, the secret nighttime cocktail, the dog poop. He thought I was asleep in our single room dorm, so he started masturbating. Worst part is this was a regular occurrence and we actually had a bathroom in our room. Dorm was a renovated hotel, but he chose not to do it in there. Easier to fall asleep after if you're already in bed. More sad than weird, I shared a bunk bed in high school with a white guy who was quite the outcast. He was overweight, angry, kept to himself and was rude to everyone. Needless to say, he was at the receiving end of some pretty bad hazing. I was a skinny Indian nerd and he didn't like me much, but since I wasn't part of the hazing, was okay with me. Once I was trying to retrieve something I dropped under the bed when I saw the folded paper also lying there. Opened it to read an apparent suicide note written by said guy, basically blaming all the classmates. Thought about showing it to a teacher but then decided against it and showed it to the class president, who went around talking to most of the guys who were bullying him. Everyone started treating him better and by senior year he was doing alright, even though he still kept to himself and made no friends. We had a few friendly chats here and there so I could tell he was doing okay. Last I heard he was married and working as a corrections officer. Keeps posting pics on FB about his gun collection and off-roading. During a particularly frustrating winter's night, my roommate started humping his pillow to the tune of My Heart Will Go On. It was a difficult time. I don't blame him. It's nice that you consider your dog your roommate. Had a roommate in my college dorm that would never reuse underwear. She would just buy more, which isn't bad, except she left all her old underwear sitting on the floor of her closet. Just an ever-growing pile of used panties. She also wouldn't use pads and would free bleed on her sheets and never changed those either. She had a privacy screen over her bed and my other roommate lifted it to find where the smell was coming from. A cockroach ran out. Felt like I could never get a fresh smelling room because of her. We were all pretty broke, so I had bought the cheapest brand of mac and cheese. I took a bite and it was gross, so I trashed it. Walked back in the kitchen 10 minutes later and my two roommates were standing over the garbage with spoons eating it. Guess I should have offered. Haven't lived till you've eaten trash mac. In college we had dorm rooms shared between 4 girls, 2 in each room on either side of a main room. One time I came back from class to see a rope going from one room, through the common room, into another. My roommate poked her head around the corner and said she hoped I didn't mind. Mind what? She had tied one end of a slack line to my bedpost and the other to hers, and was trying to tightrope in our dorm room. It didn't work. Beds got pulled together. I admire her effort. I caught my roommate doing the dishes without being asked. Seriously changed how I looked at the guy. For real though, our female roommate came home with a few friends to my roommate and I doing chores naked. She said she would have joined if she didn't bring company. It was a weird house. I got to this thread too late. We had a ton of food going missing and we all knew who it was. But my best bud, landlord, but a webcam and set it up discreetly in the kitchen. Within a couple days, we caught the guy eating a stick of butter straight from the wrapper and then go in the pantry, grab a bag of sugar, and just start chugging it. Mother was making cookies in his mouth. Mother was slamming those hands. My best friends, who I later moved in with, had a rando in their sweet our sophomore year of college. They all shared pots and pans, and just assumed people know how to use them. One day, they came back to their dorm, and the rando was standing at the sink with steel wool, scrubbing one of their Teflon pans for all it was worth, which wasn't much when she was done with it. They knew a lost cause when they saw her doing it, and just let her continue until she'd gotten all of it off of the pan. When she was done, they threw it out and removed the rest of the Teflon pans from the kitchen. A roommate in college once clearly said the word orchestra while he was fast asleep. I thought he was awake, so when I said what and he didn't respond I was a bit spooked. College roommate ordered fast food in his sleep. I need a large medium root beer and some fries. Was one of those deals where he sort of woke himself up saying it, and thought I said it. Not my roommate, but the woman he was dating. I came downstairs to see her running out through the back door. When I got down to the ground floor I saw that she had left stir fry, with a ton of oil, still burning on the stove. That was the last time I ever saw her. Turned out later that she was actually running from a bounty hunter for skipping bail. No idea what the charge was. I didn't know that at the time. I was just pissed that she left the burner on. If I hadn't come downstairs the whole place could have burned down. I didn't really catch my roommate as I discovered this. So my first barracks room while I was in the Navy, I had a roommate named Colby. Colby survived off of chicken patties, cigarettes and Mountain Dew and would play video games and watch movies that were rather disturbing. This kid slept with a K-bar under his pillow but he was super nice. Iniho, 6 months into living with this character, it's like 2 AM and he wakes up screaming bloody murder. I hop out of my little bed terrified. I thought we were about to die. As quickly as it started, it ends. So I go to wake him up cause I'm sweaty and scared shitless. He wakes up annoyed. I tell him what happened and proceeded to tell me he gets night terrors. Frick. So this would happen like once every month or so and I've gotten used to it. I kept a football by my bed and would throw the football at his head as hard as I could every time. Crap drove me nuts. Fast forward to my first deployment. Mind you, in the Navy you sleep in racks. Basically just bunk beds but worse, and there are about 6 inches above your face in those things. The kid had his first night terror on the ship, but it wasn't as dramatic but way more funny. Basically it was scream followed by an immediate bonk. Kid knocked himself out every time. Probably not good for you, but not much is in the Navy. Everyone in the berthing got a kick out of it every time it happened. Where do I start? She would sneak into my room, take my cologne and put it on her teddy bears. Constantly play with herself while we were watching TV together. Moan from her room during the night calling my name. Leave used woman's hygiene products on the floor in our shared bathroom. I made it very clear I wasn't interested. She eventually gave up about 3 months in and moved out. I knew one of my roommates was using my coffee maker because the pot would sometimes be really gross and stained, like someone had made tea in it or mixed something in with the coffee. Eventually, I came into the kitchen while it was happening. I asked if she was making tea, but she said no, it was coffee. So I asked how she was making it, and that's when it got weird. Apparently, she had no idea how to make coffee, and instead of asking someone or googling it, she decided to just wing it by putting the grounds and the water all right into the pot and then turning it on. Basically, she made warm grounds water, and she had done this multiple times, so she either didn't realize anything was wrong or she didn't hate it enough to stop. Naturally, I showed her how to make actual coffee. I showed her where to pour the water. I didn't know it opened, but when I got to where to put the grounds, she said that it was too complicated for her and she'd just buy coffee on her way to work. So, it's not only that she didn't know how to make coffee, but that learning how to make coffee was too complex for her. Hands down the stupidest person I have ever known. Also, I had a roommate in Montana purchase a piano off Craigslist, then completely disassemble it in the basement, piece by piece immediately after purchasing it. He was going to put it back together right, but never did. Drug problem maybe? I dunno. My roommate from the dorm having sex in the shower room. It was a guys only floor too. The shower room is a combined shower room, sinks, and shitters. So his GF is moaning not exactly subtly and it echoes all up and down the hall. All of the hall mates had their doors open and were staring down the hall wondering who was banging until the Ra comes out. Bangs on the bathroom door. Ra, hey, stop it. My roommate. Sorry. Ra leaves and roommates GF proceed to have more sex. Oh good, I have a story for this. I was randomly assigned a roommate for my college dorm my freshman year. She got there before me. I walked into the room. She was lying on the floor in a beanbag, topless with shot glasses on both of her boobs. Turned out, she had just gotten her nipples pierced and needed to soak them in saline. She was totally unbothered by my arrival. She grew up in a naked house and nudity was just not a big deal to her. As I learned in further detail the longer I lived with her. This was 8 years ago and we're still really close. Actually kind of sweet. In my house, one guy got too drunk to unlock the door to his room. So he just went to the next nearest available bedroom and passed out in that bed. He stayed passed out until that roommate came home the next morning with her boyfriend and found him sleeping in her bed. When he started to get out, he realized he had removed his pants and was sleeping completely naked under her sheets. He was quite embarrassed. He was also me. I've had a Russian who was studying mathematics or some. His social skills weren't very high, so talking to him was often kind of awkward. But that didn't happen often. He very rarely left his room, only to go to the university and buying groceries. He also made his food only in his room. The weirdest part was, when he locked himself in his room you could always hear beeping sounds. Another roommate found out these were signals that submarines made or sonar sounds or something like this. He never told us what he was doing in there, even when we asked what these sounds were. He was kinda creepy. Someone really loved playing Subnautica. Guy did not refrigerate his Kraft Singles cheese. He kept it on a shelf next to the bread, and every day he would come home and make a Hershey's chocolate sauce and cheese sandwich with Wonder Bread. Then, before bed, another choco cheese. Never saw him eat anything else. Shared a room with an eccentric Latvian fellow for a grand total of 3 weeks. Had a plethora of challenging moments, but one that stands out was when I woken up to find him eating a fistful of steak in the bathtub in his underwear. Broken glass everywhere, and when I queried to what the frick he was doing, he just said, "You know we love to hustle." My freshman year of college, my roommate had a Confederate flag that he was going to put up. This was about a month in, so by that point he had to have known that I'm black. When I first got to college, I had a random roommate. Day 1, she gets out of the shower and says, "Do you mind if I change of course?" I said no problem. Thanks for the heads up. Roommate then proceeds to walk around the room entirely nude for 30 minutes before I get the courage to ask her to put some clothes on. I'd always had pretty conservative friends at home, so I didn't know if this was normal for others. And I also didn't want to embarrass her if she was seconds away from getting dressed. IDK. It was uncomfortable. Her knife collection wasn't my favorite thing either. I have a friend whose roommate boiled bleach to clean his pots, effectively making chlorine gas. All 4 other roommates were home and stopped the madness before they were killed by it. I'm sure this will get buried, but my housemate would get drunk, chuck on his wetsuit and wander off to the war memorial. It was his thing. My other roommate and I came home to her singing, shrieking, really loudly. It was completely unintelligible and we were both quietly laughing, so she just kept going for quite a while. It's weird because she used to be in choir, but it was really bad. As a former choir member, the monotony of coordination and staying in tenor was just not very satisfying. Sometimes it's nice to let go at it like a bad Freddie Mercury. My old roommate caught me doing something weird. We had a couple of drinks as normal and decided to step out front to smoke. We were just talking and I felt an itch near the top of my butt crack. Still talking, I reached around to scratch it and for some reason smelled my hand. He looked at me and asked if I really just did that. I don't know why I did. You're in a rape. This one scarred me for life. I moved to Dallas with a girl I had been roommates in flight attendant training with. She had a balcony through her room that connected to the living room, but we always kept that door locked. One day she woke me up early and told me I had to go somewhere. She had a guy coming over and needed the place to herself. I got it. Before he got there, I went to the balcony through her room to smoke before leaving. I must have been outside longer than I intended, because when I took my headphones out I heard a slapping sound and light moans coming from her room. I was like, great, I can never get this out of my head. It gets better. I went to let myself back inside but realized that the door leading to the living room was locked and the only way back into the apartment would be through her bedroom. I wasn't even supposed to be there, so I climbed over the railing and stepped onto the downstairs neighbor's balcony and down from there. I thought the whole thing was so funny that when I got home later I told her about my mishap, only to be faced with the truth. The man she had invited over was from a fetish site, who she had invited over to spank her, not judging her interests, but I caught my roommate being spanked by a stranger. Well, that's just good clean fun. Casually looking at various Nazi uniforms on the internet, he even showed me the one he wanted to buy for his girlfriend. They would get high off of ether and masturbate in the living room of the apartment when they didn't think me or my fiancée were home. There is nothing in the world more depraved and helpless and irresponsible than a man in the depths of an ether binge. In college, roommate thought I was going out of town. Forgot something. Had to go back. Roommate is there with his girlfriend. Girl is naked but for knee-high boots. Roommate is naked but for a lacy pair of girlfriend's panties. Roommate is kneeling in front of her. Girlfriend is standing with one foot on the footboard of the bed. Roommate is masturbating furiously and girlfriend is grinding her ladder bits on his face. I nope the frick out, slamming the door. Don't need that information in my life. Roommate later apologizes, but things are awkward until I move out the next semester. Except, trust me, I am he. I am the furiously masturbating roommate. Never saw that poor guy again after he moved out, either. It was a big university. Hey, I got here early for once. Posted this a while ago, 6 years or so copy pasting here. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. So this happened just this year, my freshman year. My roommate and I got along great, good friends, and we knew each other well. So one day I had to go to an office building on campus to up my meal plan and turn in some forms. It was on a Tuesday on which neither of us had class. So as I was leaving, he woke up. I told him where I was going and left. To my surprise, the building was a lot closer than I thought. It was a building only for administrative purposes, so I had never been there. So I go in, fill out my forms, and lo and behold, I'm done in about 5 minutes. Super easy. So I go, grab some breakfast to go and walk back to the dorms. So I get to our door, not thinking of anything really. It was about 10:30 AM on a Tuesday, and I open the door. The chain lock is on the door, so it only opened about 5 inches, but it was a perfect line of sight to my roommate. Pants around his ankles, smack in the lobster right at his computer, full screened and all. We make eye contact and exclaim, at the same exact time, "Okay," and I close the door, awkwardly sit outside my room with no idea what to do. A minute later or so he opens and is apologizing profusely and trying to laugh it off. Mainly I think it's funny and a bit weird, but we're both cool guys and knew we did it, so we moved on. Now that's not so bad. It happens, right? Well, I eat my breakfast at my desk a few minutes later, and I'm finishing up a great breakfast burrito. I stand up to throw it away in the trash can under my bed. We each had one for our sides of the room, and lo and behold, it's not there. Now I live in a fairly small room, so it's not like you can hide a trash can in many places. So I look at my roommate and say, "Hey man, do you know where my trash can is?" He looks at me like a deer in the headlights, and quickly sputters out, "No man, I don't know. Is it gone?" That's weird. I accept this answer, but I still can't find it. So I say, "If you took it, man, it's okay. Just tell me." I realized it was weird, so I kinda trailed off. He insists he doesn't have it, so I say, "Okay." Walk over to his desk, and there it is, right in the landing zone of where his baby juices were headed. He looks at it, back at me, and just says, "I normally never use yours." It was a weird few weeks that followed. I always knock now. The only messed up part is that he used your trash can instead of his ha. My roommate and I watched with jaws on the floor as our third, new, roommate washed his clothes in our toilet. He was reassigned a few days later to a different dorm with no explanation. Ate blueberry pancakes with syrup, and then put the plates in his closet until it reeked horribly. He did many little things like this. He wasn't my roommate for long. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.